Welcome back, everybody. Week 5 edition of the Best F in Fantasy Show in a packed house in the basement, joined by Joey Del Mastro, Jerry Procopio, Carmen Del Mastro, our producer Nick Specca, a couple special guests in here as well, observing. Big week coming up in Week 5 in the NFL. Before we get to that, make sure you follow us on Twitter at BestEffinShow. Check out the website, besteffinfantasyshow.com. Everything you need to know to dominate Week 5. Check out the site. Hit us up on Twitter. Want to jump right in here. Couple injuries last week from Week 4 may have a little effect on your teams going forward. First would be Greg Jennings. James Jones, nice pickup.
Yeah, Jennings, he looks like he's going to be out 1 or 2 weeks. Jones is filling in pretty nice. He's a must-add.
He's already comfortable on my bench.
Yeah.
Jordy Nelson finally showed some signs of life last week, too. Scenario to keep your eye on. Matt Forte, lingering issue. It seems to be a recurring problem with him. Michael Bush owners, hang tight with Bush and keep plugging him in going forward.
That sounded dirty.
Well, you know how we like to do things.
Plug that Bush.
I guess on a less significant note, Antonio Holmes, probably the most recognizable player on a brutal Jets offense that just got embarrassed last week. Injury was added to insult with Holmes going down. He's going to miss a lot of time. Anyone worthy of picking up in his place if you're a Holmes owner?
Brian Hartline is still a free agent in your league. I know it's Wednesday, but he's obviously
the guy you want to pick up.
Did you see the Brian Hartline 250 yards coming? Did you see that, Jack?
No, I didn't. He's obviously Tannehill's favorite target. 19 targets last week, and I think it's safe to say you could put him in every week.
Another guy you want to look at if he's on your waiver, Brandon Bolden. He's obviously not going to do that every week, but his performance Sunday, I think, will get him extended playing time going forward.
Yeah, he has to be owned because they did it 2 weeks in a row now with him, and the way Belichick works, he just doesn't give two shits about fantasy football. So he's going to ride the hot hand, and we've seen that in the last 2 weeks. So Bolden's a guy you definitely want in your line or on your bench and stash him away.
Also, check your waivers to see if anybody dropped Justin Blackman. He got off to a slow start, but Laurent Robinson's out right now with a concussion. And who else are they really going to throw to? They don't have that many weapons in the receiving game.
All right, good stuff. Definitely a lot of names to keep your eye on going forward this week and beyond. We've just passed the quarter point in the season. We're 4 weeks in. A couple guys that maybe you're not sold on quite yet. Maybe a couple guys that were drafted really high and haven't performed up to their expectations. I want to get your opinion on a couple. If you're an owner of these guys, what should you do going forward? First one is the injury-riddled Ryan Matthews. If you're a Matthews owner, what are you thinking right now?
Well, no one saw the emergence of Jackie Battle last week. Everyone thought Ryan Matthews, it was going to be his time to get back on the field. I think they're just taking precautions with him, to be honest. I mean, when it comes down to it, the guy still has the talent. They still love him in San Diego, so stick with him for now. He could be a valuable option going into the playoff time.
Yeah, the thing about him is, in most drafts, he probably went between rounds early as 4, maybe as late as 7. People are afraid to take him because of how injury risk he is. But, on most people's teams, he's maybe the running back 2, even the running back 3. So you figure, some owners are probably frustrated with him and tired with him already and okay, I give up on this guy. But I personally think with their favorable schedule coming up, I think he's going to kill it the second half of the season, and he's a perfect guy that I think you can buy low on right now.
He's awful.
Yeah,
you guys are high on him. He's awful.
We'll see.
I wouldn't draft him if it was the 15th round. I wouldn't draft him.
Well, that's a little much, Joe.
No, he's terrible. I don't want him on my team.
That's a little too much.
No, it's not.
He stays healthy the rest of the year. He's going to finish the top 10 running back.
He stays healthy. He never stays healthy.
Okay, we'll see.
He never stays healthy. He sucks.
Sucks is a strong word, Joe.
And Rick is back for some reason. I don't know
Rick
why.
making a cameo.
What the?
Week 5.
Rick, there's too many people in the studio tonight. We gotta leave.
No, the more the merrier.
Going from one disappointing running back to another, Chris Johnson finally showed some signs of life this week. A little too late for certain owners. Regardless, decent game, 140 yards on the ground. Is this the time to sell Chris Johnson? Is this it right here?
Yeah, I would think so. Their schedule is horrible going forward. And, they really don't have many weapons besides Kendall Wright and Kenny Britt. You don't know if he's going to come back. So it's that offense is just Chris Johnson. So
and Nate Washington.
And Nate Washington, yeah.
And all his fantasy points were hot garbage time points.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
them trying to just get out of Houston alive. So, sell on him while his value is somewhat up.
Couple other running backs that maybe you're not sure of that went really high in drafts. Another one's Darren McFadden. The Raiders, after getting blown out in Denver, McFadden with another subpar game. I think we're all pretty generally high on McFadden's talent level. Is this a scenario where you stay patient with your running back?
Yeah. The one thing you have to take into consideration is a healthy Darren McFadden is a great guy to have on your team. I mean, the Raiders switched to the zone blocking offense. It's the one-cut style format, so it's going to take them a while to get used to it. But like we said earlier with some other guys, favorable schedule coming up. It's going to favor him. They're going to get him the ball. For that offense to be successful, they have to run the ball with Darren McFadden. So, with that said, stay patient.
Yeah, plus they were playing from behind, too, so they weren't going to run the ball that much anyway.
Yeah, he's a good running back on a bad team, so he's going to get the ball.
Unless they're unless they're getting blown out, then they're going to stop giving him the ball.
And that offense, inconsistent to say the least, the week before and against Pittsburgh. They were really balanced on both sides, and for whatever reason got ran out of the stadium by Denver. Another guy, DeMarco Murray, went real high, first, second round guy. Obviously we all know he had a strong second half last year. Has really yet to be consistent this year. Okay, if you're in a PPR league, he seems to be getting a good amount of touches in the passing game, but for where you drafted him, you got to be disappointed with DeMarco Murray so far.
Oh yeah, definitely. He's more of like a running back too, like we said last week. That offensive line is just terrible. I mean, he gets tackled behind the line so many times, but I mean, like if he wasn't producing in the passing game, I mean, it'd be really hard to trade him. But I would trade him.
If you're in a non PPR league and you're not getting those bonus 5 catches a game, how do you feel about Murray?
Oh, horrible. You got to feel horrible about it.
Yeah, their offensive line is not solid at all, so it's just not a good position to be in with him. So if you could trade him away and get some value, especially if you're in a standard league, go right ahead and do it. But if you're in a PPR format, like we talked about last week, that's the only way he's going to perform right now because the offense is lost. Unless they can correct it coming out of the bye, then you should sell on him.
All right, we're going to stay in Dallas. A couple other big-name guys. Dez Bryant, we've touched on Dez multiple times on this show. Last night was a perfect example. He'll show flashes and then he'll have some inexplicable drops and mistakes. Is this what we can expect from Dez, or this year are we going to see him make that leap?
Seriously, Dez is probably one of the dumbest motherfuckers in the NFL. It's unreal how dumb he is. The guy can't run simple out routes. It's embarrassing.
Yeah.
He's got to have his quarterback for 3 years in a row, same thing, screaming at him, telling him what to do on the field. Like, get your shit together. I mean, you have your own personal security team. It's like he's running around with them on his back. Get it together.
He's been in the league 3 years. He still can't learn a route. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. It really is. And he's on ESPN 30 for 30. He may be broke. That's why. he may be broke. That might be weighing on his mind. It might be why the ball's hitting him in the face. But who knows?
I mean, it's disappointing seeing a guy with that kind of talent, and for being as highly touted as he was, still not performing on a consistent level. We'll go right then to his quarterback, Tony Romo. Romo always, say what you want about him, but he's always been a consistent fantasy guy. 5 interceptions last night is, unacceptable, regardless of, what defense you're going against. How do you feel about Romo, especially in a league where there's a lot of, good quarterback play?
I mean, I don't have him on any of my teams, but I don't like him going forward. There's probably a lot of quarterbacks that are on the waivers that I would rather have. I'd rather have Ryan Fitzpatrick than Tony Romo.
Going forward the rest of the year, you'd rather have Ryan Fitzpatrick?
Fitzpatrick is a good fantasy quarterback.
He might throw
two, 3 interceptions a game, but the guy's going to throw. Well, he's also going to throw the 3 touchdowns, 4 touchdowns a game because there's just the kind of terrible games they get placed in.
Yeah, one thing about Fitzpatrick, he's leading the league right now in passing touchdowns. I don't think a lot of people know that. His performances are sloppy, but he's going to get you 20 to 25 points a game.
But he's also not on the waiver wire in most leagues. People drafted him. He's not a bad quarterback. He's not just sitting out there. What's going on right now?
Actually, my work with he is available, so a lot of people don't have him on their team.
People just don't like him.
If you're in a thin league, then he may be available. Another stud quarterback had an incredible year last year. Really hasn't performed up to his potential consistently this year, and that's Matthew Stafford. Big time offense, big time playmakers on that offense. Where do you stand on Stafford going forward?
Are the real Lions back? That's the real question.
Was last year just a 1 year aberration?
And you saw a lot of inflated stats that aren't, nearly possible to duplicate. And that's what you get going into this year. You get people expecting the 16 touchdowns from Calvin or the 40-some touchdowns from Stafford, and then once they start to decline, then you get people going off the deep end with them. But, if you have Stafford, you have to stick with them for now because they do have the weapons to explode.
What about Antonio Gates?
That's a
good
good
one.
Really hasn't done much this year. Obviously, Gates, fantasy football legend throughout his career. What do you think about Gates going forward? If you're a Gates owner, is it time to move forward?
The legend's over.
It's over?
It's over. He needs to retire.
Yeah, he declined a lot. He's not as fast as he was. He can't do some of the things he did before.
Can't dunk the basketball anymore.
No,
The injuries are finally starting to catch up to him.
Yeah.
Well, if they get in the red zone, he's still Rivers' main target in the red zone.
Ryan Matthews will punch it in, don't worry.
It's kind of disheartening that the one game Dante Rosario had 3 touchdowns and Gates
hasn't scored yet.
he can't do much of anything. All right, good stuff. We will be right back with our Legends and Jerk-Offs for Week 5. Welcome back, everybody. Week 5, Best F and Fantasy Show, live from the basement. It's that time for the Legends and Jerk-Offs for Week 5.
I say we start with jerk-offs this week.
You want to go jerk-offs
I
first?
think you're jerk-offs first. Switch it up.
Oh,
Give me
alright.
Yeah. Well, that's a good idea.
Yeah, let's do
Switch it
it.
up.
Let's switch it up.
It's good. You want to hear the bad news first always.
There you go.
Jared, hit me.
All right. All right. My first jerk over the week's LaShawn McCoy.
Oh, heartbreaks.
I know. I had to do it. Playing the Steelers, coming off a bye. I think he's going to have a down week. You want me to keep going, or you want?
I got it, Jared. Jared, I'm gonna go Steven Jackson against Arizona Thursday Night Football. Injury concerns plus a solid Arizona rush defense. Don't see much out of Action Jackson.
All right, my next one. He had a good week last week. Cam Newton. He hasn't been what he was last year. Seattle defense, not going to do it.
All right, so I'll go into Steve the Toad Smith. Like you said, passing attack struggling for Carolina. So Seattle secondary, it can be lights out at time. They got those big body corners. I don't see much from Steve Smith. He's already starting to decline early in the season.
Yeah. My next one's Maurice Jones-Drew. Jags don't have many weapons on offense. I think Chicago's going to shut them down. That's all they got.
I'm going to Deshaun Jackson versus Pittsburgh. I really don't see. I see much of a letdown game out of the Eagles this week. Steelers coming off a bye, big performance by the Steelers secondary. Take that.
And Palmero's back too.
I was on the fence on whether or not to start Jackson. I'm off the fence now. This is the kind of insight you get at the Best Evan Fantasy Show. Jared, give me a legend for.
I got
oh, I'm sorry. We got more jerk-offs.
I got one.
A lot of
I got one more. I got one more. I got to go with Andre Johnson. I know it's tough.
This takes a lot for you to say.
I know. He's one of my favorite players. Last week, all of his performance came on the first drive.
So
They're playing the
you're
Jets.
finally admitting to Andre Johnson's lackluster performances?
No,
Is that what you're saying?
his
Yeah,
lackluster
that's what you're
performances are because of the way
The offense is run.
Yeah, the offense is run,
Yeah.
and how good Houston is. When they're ahead, why are they going to pass the ball? He only got 6 targets last week, and then he was done.
What kind of logic is that? They're
think-
good, so he doesn't get the ball. It's stupid.
I think we finally just chiseled it
What?
into your well manicured face.
Look, if you don't regard Andre Johnson as a top 20 all-time receiver, you're crazy.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you on there, but he's just in decline, Jared. I'm sorry.
I don't know about the decline.
We got our
They have
RG3 on your list this week.
Ooh.
He's in the top 5.
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
Make sure you check out our rankings this week.
Oh.
See where he's at.
All right.
Not on the jerk-off list again, I see.
My last
Is
one's going to be
legit.
Ryan Fitzpatrick. Not because I have a 49er bias or anything, but going to San Fran against a tough Niners defense, I don't see him doing much. No bias here. Not that I'm wearing a 49ers hat
Of course not.
or anything. No bias.
Now, Jarek, can
Just
I
saying.
have some legends for Week 5, please?
Okay. My first legend, he hasn't had
Shut up, Jared.
that.
money! No brains! No nucleus!
All right, my first legend. He really hasn't had a big game for being drafted in the top 3 yet. I think safe to say Arian Foster has his biggest game of the year this
That's
year.
a good one. Where'd you pull him out of?
Well, he's on my team. I mean, they're playing the Jets. I mean,
So, Foster's been consistently good all year.
he's been solid, but he hasn't had a monster game like.
So this is it. This is the breakout right here.
Jared, I'm gonna go with a package combo for my
Okay.
first two.
Okay, go ahead.
The Ponder to Rudolph connection, and that's mainly because,
Rudolph.
like Steve talked about, Dante Rosario scored 3 touchdowns against Tennessee in 1 week. So I see Rudolph having a big game. They get down the red zone. I'm not gonna say Peterson. It's too, out there.
Yeah. My next one's Fred Davis. He's been coming on. Atlanta's pretty vulnerable to the tight end, and he's been getting more and more involved.
My second legend, we're going to go Marshawn Lynch against Carolina, against the worst rushing defense in the NFL. It's enough said.
Yes.
Okay. All right, my next one's Julio Jones. He's disappointed last week. I see him bouncing back big against Washington.
Is this
Can't
what we
cover
can?
anybody?
Is this what we can expect though? Where 1 week Julio goes off, 1 week Roddy goes off. Is this what,
Well, last
what
week
owners can expect going forward?
last week he had some kind of hand injury, and I think he was used more as a decoy.
Pick your poison.
Yeah.
He had two throws thrown at him in the end zone. One was an interception. One was
Yeah.
defended well. Just ride it out. You gotta
Yeah.
ride it out.
Yeah. They're both going to finish in the top 10.
My next one's Malcolm Floyd. They're in New Orleans. I think it's going to be a shootout in the NO this week. New Orleans giving up the 4th most opposing wide receivers. I see a good matchup for him this week.
My next one's Frank Gore. They're playing Buffalo. They gave up, 300 yards rushing to the Patriots last week. I think Gore easily gets 100 yards and a touchdown or 2.
Sure, I'll stay with the running back team. I'm going Reggie Bush for Cincinnati, giving up the 7th most opposing running backs. I see him getting heavily involved. Back in the passing game, a little bit of letdown coming off the injury against Arizona. Better defense last week. Expect a bounce back game from Reggie this week.
All right, my last one's Cedric Benson. He missed his easy touchdown last week. He gets into you aren't that good against the run. He's going to get it done this week.
All right, Jared. My last one's Eli Manning versus Cleveland. They're giving up the 6th most points to opposing quarterbacks and the 2nd most to opposing wide receivers. I see a big bounce back game for Eli.
Agree with that.
Now, who the f*** is that sleepers for Week 5?
Last year, I spent more money on spilled liquor.
Spilled Arnold Palmer's. That's what Nicky texted me with today. It was like,
All right, well, I got 2 as usual. My first one
As usual.
per usual.
Per usual.
As usual.
As usual.
Industry standard.
is Chaz Shillings, back from the dead. Holmes is already ruled out. Stephen Hill's probably not going to play.
Sounds like a hard candy.
They're going to be playing from behind all day.
Go out there and grab some Chaz Shillings.
This guy, he's got
This guy.
This guy.
Chaz Shillings apparently has what it takes
what it takes
to be a
take the
fifth
top
string
off-
wide receiver.
Take the top off the defense.
Your pants and you spank their ass.
All right, my first one is Dominic Hickson against the Browns. Just explain that Cleveland's giving up the 2nd most opposing wide receivers. Enough said. And Nix is questionable once again.
Hicks.
Nix?
Yep.
All right, my last one
Speak.
is a real. Who the is that sleeper?
Yes.
Not Hickson, who
Whoa.
was exposed last week.
Wow.
Your mother was exposed.
All right, Jordan Cameron. You know who he is?
Yeah, Jerry's.
I love the
fucking
look
tight end.
Jerry gives when he throws a random name out there. I love it.
Oh,
Okay,
you're
he got
awesome,
7
Jerry.
targets last week. Only came up with 1.
This is it. This
He
week is
showed-
going to be
he
different.
This is his time.
You know what? I'm going to pick him up and I'm going to start him.
You won't.
Please do.
You're not starting him. Jerry, how come
He showed some big playability in the preseason. I see him making plays in this game. The Giants aren't good against the tight end, and he's going to be that safety valve this week.
Speaking of Hickson, didn't we talk earlier on the phone and you asked me who my sleeper was, and then I go into one of our leagues and who picks up Hickson this week?
That's because I have. I have Knicks.
I'ma f you up!
It's alright, Jerry. Swagger Jagger.
Is that it?
That's it.
That's it.
That's
I
it.
don't want to say anything else. I mean, Jerry might get offended.
Jordan Cameron just shut down the segment.
He did.
Just shut it
He's gonna
down.
shut it down this week.
We won't chat
Guess
about
what?
that now.
Everybody's gonna pick him up.
It's chat with that time for the best episode
We
of the
got
show.
questions to answer. We got a lot of questions.
After the
And then we're going to White Girl Wednesday.
Yes!
It's not on a Wednesday.
It's not Wednesday, it's Tuesday.
It's all right. Top Dog Tuesday. Here we come.
That's right.
It's Taco Tuesday.
And with that, we're going to go no break right into the question segment of our show.
What are the questions, Nick?
Our producer Nick Specca has been hard at work all night,
And he's not even ready with
manning the
questions.
Twitter board, manning our Facebook page. Emails coming in by the second. I'm going to pass it along to our producer Nick Specca, who has the first question.
This is the last question. Who is this?
Alright, our first question comes from Greg, and he says,
Just Greg.
Just Greg. I thought he
Just-
We need a Twitter handle.
I think it's Greg Salas.
Alright, here we go. Our first question comes from at GJN27, and he wants to know which side of the trade do you like better? Antonio Brown, Cedric Benson, and Reggie Bush for Doug Martin, Axon Jackson, and Brandon Lloyd.
I like Bush. The Bush side.
Sure you do.
Yeah,
I love the
whatever
Bush
the
side.
first side.
Antonio
is.
Yeah, whoever's getting that
Bush
first side is
Yeah,
winning
the
that
first
deal.
side is
Brown Bush.
outweighs. Yeah.
Love Brown Bush. Gotta love that combo.
Yeah, we all love Brown Bush. Alright, our next...
That's all.
No, that stays.
Can we get
Yeah,
an
cut
in-studio
that.
question from one of our live?
Oh yeah, in studio
We're
question.
going to have the show on the
Schmegel.
Playboy channel. That's what we're going to do.
Schmegel called me,
The
by the
R-rated
way,
channel.
and asked me a question.
He told me too.
No!
No!
At the Schmegel. We're getting Schmegel.
I can't wait.
I'll get his Twitter handle.
I can't wait to edit this.
Let's go to the next question.
Leave it all in.
How many questions do we have? We got a lot.
Yeah, well,
Just go raw and uncut. Don't cut anything. Just let the whole show go.
now, hold on. We'll get to the live ones later.
Yeah, we'll get to live questions.
We gotta get through
at the
this.
end.
Come on, let's go.
Our next question comes from at Eagles Tar Heels. He says, I need trade help. I'm in a PPR league. I would get Decker, and I would give up LeSure and Bolden. My running backs are McCoy, Ridley, and Bradshaw.
I think you're doing that regardless. Decker's PPR value is a lot higher than Bolden and LeSure, and with your running backs already pretty solid, I think it makes your team much more balanced.
I agree.
I agree with all that.
Do you think that, just kind of jumping off that, do you think we saw LeSure's ceiling that week one, that pounded out, maybe get 100 yards and a touch? Is that kind of like the best case scenario for LeSure owners?
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, I think so. Still got Java Best coming back week 8. You're not going to get a good performance out of LeSure unless they're playing like a mediocre. If they play a good run defense, he's not going to do anything.
Just a thought for some LeSure owners. Go ahead.
Our next question comes from at RYLY guy. And he wants to know, do you think Chris Johnson could have as many points this week against the Vikings like he did last week?
No shot. That's all I'm going to say.
English.
Well, that's like just kind of playing devil's advocate. Like, isn't that the same scenario? I mean, we said that Chris
Yeah,
Johnson's the only guy, so regardless if it's garbage time or not, do you think he...
Well, you
I
got.
mean, it's a bad matchup.
You got to
but-
start him, but I mean, unless you have much better options, you got to start him because he's going to produce something at least. But the matchup is bad.
Yeah.
You got to first of all, you have to anticipate the garbage time,
Sure.
which isn't guaranteed.
Who can
You never know.
anticipate garbage time?
Matt Hasselbeck could come up and throw 303 touchdowns, all to Kendall Wright. You never know.
Kenny
they
Brett
watching?
probably
Good.
rekindle
You
their
could,
bromance
you know,
from
any
last
given
year.
Sunday.
Yeah, temper your expectations for Johnson, but you saw last week garbage time against a good defense.
You saw the
never
new
know.
Johnson last week.
Alright, our next question comes from at JFunk33.
Oh, J-Funk.
And he wants to know, it's a very basic question, what should I do with Greg Jennings?
Trade him.
I wouldn't.
I gotta
wouldn't
think that
trade
there's
him.
Trade him.
there's definitely some people that would give up a decent amount for Greg Jennings. He's a top line guy in a high powered offense. I mean, he's struggling a little bit with injuries, but you don't think anybody would bite on Greg Jennings?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, they
There's
would.
whole bunch of people out there that are name whores. I mean, why not go ahead and take a chance and put them on the market, see what you could get for them?
Anybody want him? I got 7 teams in here. Anybody want him?
I do enjoy his commercials.
More commercials than touchdowns. That's all I say
Hell of a
about
pitch
Greg
man.
Jennings.
He's definitely turned into a hell of a pitch man.
He looks good in Old Spice, too.
Still, he's on the block. Anybody want
He
him?
can put his
Seriously.
jet ski on his back
Want
and
him?
do push-ups.
I'll give him the.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Jerry,
Give
we
me
tried
that big
this
doggy
already.
smile.
There it is. Alright, our next question comes from @Samps on 1985. I wonder what year he was born. And he wants to know, I got 1 spot left for this week. Who should I start? Bush, Simpson, or Garcon?
The real question is which Bush?
Whew, he did not say. I'm going to go with Reggie Bush. And if it's not, God help us. Go ahead.
If it's Reggie, then you want that Bush in your lineup. If it's not, what are the other options?
Garcon.
Garcon.
Pierre.
Garcon.
I would start Garcon.
Yeah.
I think Simpson's out.
Yeah.
If it's
You
Michael
can't trust
Bush,
him yet.
It's Garcon.
You said
You
Garcon.
I'm
Alright.
not going anywhere near that bush.
That Bush can start a whole lot of trouble for you.
Our next question comes from Matt S. Ross 81.
Okay.
He said, I need an RB for week 5. Nothing good on the waiver wire. What do you think about Alfred Morris for Lance Moore trade?
I think you make that trade if you're weak at running back.
Alfred Morris has
he's been
solid
yeah.
all year. I mean, I got to imagine Lance Moore's probably his 3rd guy. So if you're
That's
looking for running back help, absolutely.
That's a great deal.
Do the deal, Matt.
Good advice. Alright, we got @Softball Jesus. Oh god, these names. And he wants to know, Jesus wants to know,
That's the best Twitter handle we've gotten so far.
this is big, this is for Jesus. God help us.
And pal, I'll kiss your boots if you can do it.
Shut up, Rick.
Would you deal DMC to get Deshaun, LaSure, and my boy, Pitta Petta?
Was that a 3-for-1?
3 for 1.
3
Well, it
mediocre.
It depends how your team is. If you're really struggling at wideout, it could
Well,
help you.
he said his RBs would be Fred Jackson, Mars, LaSure, and his wide receivers would be Cruz, Colson, and Deshaun.
No, don't do
No,
that.
don't do
Why
it.
would you do that?
No.
Why would you do that, Jesus?
Thanks for leaving out half the question.
I was going
He
to
could,
say
he could definitely
Give us the whole
he
question
could
next
definitely
time.
get more for McFadden from somewhere else.
Aim high, Willis.
We got one more question from our guy GJN27, which I think is a very good question. What we kind of touched upon earlier. What should I do with McFadden? And we kind of said it already, but we got to hit up with Twitter fans.
Patience.
Yeah,
It's all about patience.
Patience.
Going into the bye, hopefully they can, correct things coming out of it.
We got a question from our email, and he wants to know, I need trade help big time.
Yes.
We love trade talk. Should I trade Doug Martin,
Dude.
Axon Jackson, Brandon Lloyd for Reggie Bush and Antonio Brown? And it's a PPR.
We already had this question. It's the same question.
No, it's different questions.
It's the same
It's
players.
different person, though.
It's the exact same players.
Is it?
It pretty much is, except for Brandon Lloyd.
We got a question from Facebook. Richie Ivino wants to know, is it worth using his first waiver wire for Heartline this week?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
If you could drop somebody that's not doing much.
yeah, it depends if you're in your league. If you're in a PPR
It's a
league,
PPR
go ahead.
league.
If you're a weaker receiver,
Yeah.
go ahead.
He's a weekly start going forward.
We're going to take a question from our audience right now. I'm going to go to Mike, since he has his dying question to ask.
I got several questions.
Can you come up here?
Mike,
We
speaking
can hear you.
into the mic.
Speak
Project. You never know who's going to stop by the
Throw it the
basement.
mic. You throw it the mic. Yeah, throw it to him.
All right, Mike, go ahead, ask your question.
All right, so you guys we need to fill in for wideout. Do you guys think Donnie Avery is a decent play against a weak or a suspect Green Bay secondary besides Woodson?
Not that suspect. As of last week, they were the best passing defense in the NFL, so they're not that suspect this year.
Big change from last year.
Yeah. So Sam Shields, he's going to be on Reggie Wayne. I wouldn't put Donnie Avery in my starting lineup this week.
Would you go Greg Little against the Giants?
I
or
would do that because the Giants' defense is suspect. Their secondary is suspect.
And because he loves Greg Little.
And Brandon Weed is starting to target him a lot more. Granted, the guy has drops issues, but if he can ever, get it together, why not go against the weak secondary this
He
week?
did have 10 targets, Greg Little, this week, so he's getting the looks.
How do you guys feel about?
Whoa. We said one question.
No, that's fine. Keep it
I
going.
got a question.
in 4 parts.
I got like 5 questions.
Do you guys like Jack?
Peanut butter.
What do you guys think about Jackie Battle in a flex position against the horrendous Saints defense?
I think the Chargers are still going to use him somewhat. I mean, well, you saw what happened last week, but I think Ryan Matthews is going to get more and more involved. It's a tough situation. You don't know what's going to happen, but if you don't have better options, I would start him then.
Start him. Just start him. Ryan Matthews isn't going to do anything. Start Jackie Battle.
I mean, even with Matthews back, Jackie Battle got a
Exactly.
good amount of touches.
Yeah, like Jackie Battle's
got in the end
Jackie
zone.
Battle's not going to go away completely. He's going to be a part of that offense, but I think that Matthews' role is going to get bigger and bigger as long as he's healthy.
Our next question from the audience comes from Nikki from J&J.
Thanks, Nick. So this week I'm going up against the top team in my league, and I'm trying to have some big impact there in my wide receiver 3 spot. Would you consider starting Brian Hartline against Cincinnati and benching Stevie Johnson against San Francisco?
Nick, I just want to be the first to say you have a great radio voice. We need to get you on the show more often.
I agree 100%.
I'll tell you myself. I would start Brian Hartline, and I'm not mind f***ing you right now. Go ahead, pick your poison.
Alright, we'll ask the other analysts. Clearly, you're playing Jerry this week. Carm.
Seriously,
We'll
cut
start
that.
Brian Hartline. Stevie Johnson's not going to do anything against the Niners secondary.
You
Start
got to
him.
hope for garbage time production.
Yes, that's what you have to hope for.
And Fitz has
Something.
been spreading the ball around. I mean, Donald
Right.
Jones has been stepping up. Chandler's been stepping up.
You're hoping for something with Stevie Johnson. On the other hand, you know what you're potentially getting with Hartline. So start Hartline. There you go.
Unanimous.
Well, I think we answered all our questions this week. It was a lot, but we love them, so make sure you keep asking us the questions. I'm going to send it back to our host, Steve.
Thank you, Nick. I want to thank everybody for stopping by the basement, showing love for the Week 5 edition of the Best Evan Fantasy Show. Good luck this week. We'll see you next week.
One more time! Ric Flair! Woo!
And I want to leave you guys with one last note for the Week 5 edition of the Best Evan Fantasy Show. This is certainly a sports entertainment show, and for anyone that doubts us and doesn't like what we do,
Now shut the f*** up and let me do my job!
see you next week.